Have you ever, like, just looked at a photograph and felt completely lost in it? And I don't mean lost in a serene or peaceful way. I mean physically exhausted.
Oh, absolutely. Like your brain is just working overtime.
Yes, exactly. Like you're trapped in this labyrinth of clashing colors and harsh shadows and overlapping stories, and your eyes they simply cannot find a single quiet corner to rest.
Right, because it's a super jarring experience. I mean, we are so conditioned to consume images that just, well, they serve the world to us on a silver platter.
Yeah, they do all the work for you.
Exactly. When you scroll through your feed or, look at a magazine, you expect the photographer to sanitize the frame, to point directly at the subject and basically say, look exactly here and feel exactly this.
Right. Here is the point of the photo. But today, we are stepping into a visual universe that just totally refuses to do that. We are taking a deep dive into the really complex, chaotic world of American photographer Alex Webb.
It's a fascinating world to dive into, too.
It really is. And we're using curated articles, interview transcripts, and some really extensive notes provided by samuelsergi.com. Our mission today is to decode this visual language that, honestly, at first glance, feels completely overwhelming.
Overwhelming is the perfect word for it because understanding Webb isn't just about, appreciating one single artist. It's really an absolute shortcut to understanding visual storytelling itself.
Because he doesn't clean up the frame for you.
No, not at all. He just drops you right into the middle of the chaos.
And to really grasp why he drops you into that chaos, we have to establish his positioning in the photography world, right? Because Alex Webb joined the legendary Magnum Photos cooperative at a remarkably young age.
Yeah, he was a nominee by, 1974? And a full member by 1979?
Exactly. And, Magnum is fiercely independent. It's the absolute pinnacle of documentary photography, built on this idea of pursuing unvarnished truth.
Right. But the interesting thing is, while a lot of his peers were aiming their cameras at, highly organized metropolises or, predictable European cities, Webb was drawn to something entirely different. He sought out what we might call border geographies.
Okay, let's pause on that phrase, because the samuelsergi.com sources specifically highlight places like the U.S.-Mexico border, Haiti, the Caribbean, Istanbul. So why these specific places?
Yeah.
Like, what is the gravitational pull of a border geography compared to, say, a really clean street in Paris?
Because these aren't just, lines on a map. They are cultural, economic, and psychological fault lines.
Fault lines, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because think about it. In a highly structured city, life happens behind closed doors, right? The streets are just, pathways to get from point A to point
Right,
B.
you're just commuting.
Exactly. But in these border geographies, life doesn't fit inside the buildings. The heat, the culture, the economic necessity, it all forces life to spill completely out into the open.
So the street becomes like the living room.
The living room, the marketplace, a literal stage for tension. Webb goes there because he is, at his core, a visual chaos hunter. He needs that unpredictable, raw energy where multiple realities just crash into each other.
But here's the detail from the notes that completely stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, the black and white thing.
Yes. The man we now consider the absolute master of complex color photography didn't actually start in color.
No, he didn't.
Like in the early 1970s, he was shooting entirely in black and white. He was wandering around New England and New York, capturing these social landscapes. And the sources note that while these black and white photos were technically perfect, they eventually felt emotionally hollow to him.
Yeah, he had a massive creative wall. He realized he was just, walking around within the same safe aesthetic boundaries, taking perfectly composed, polite pictures.
Not my pictures, right?
But the true catalyst for his entire career, the moment that totally shattered his way of seeing, happened in 1975 when he traveled to Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Wait, let's really put ourselves there for a second. Mid-70s Haiti. This wasn't just a casual trip. The sources say it literally broke his visual language.
Completely broke it. Imagine stepping onto the streets of Haiti back then. You are hit with this raw, intense survival playing out in real time.
Yeah.
You have this blistering, oppressive heat. And the light, this blinding tropical light, it creates shadows so deep and absolute that they look like solid physical objects blocking your path.
Oh, wow.
And Webb realized right then that black and white film simply could not carry the physical weight of that reality. It couldn't capture the sweat, the vibration, the sheer crushing intensity of that environment.
Okay, wait. I have to challenge that because I want to make sure I truly understand this shift.
Yeah.
We usually revere black and white as the the ultimate artistic or serious medium for documentary work, right?
Sure, historically, yeah.
So why couldn't a perfectly composed, masterfully lit black and white frame capture the heat of that environment? I mean, isn't color just a cosmetic filter applied over the reality of a scene?
See, that is the exact assumption Webb shatters. We are so conditioned to think of color as decorative, like a fresh coat of paint applied over the solid structure of a house.
Right, like an Instagram filter or something.
Exactly. But for Webb, color wasn't a decorative choice, it became a structural necessity.
A structural necessity.
Yeah. Think about the thick, red, choking dust of a street in the Caribbean. Think about the blinding, aggressive blues of a tropical sky. If you translate those elements into polite shades of gray, you are literally altering the DNA of the scene.
Oh, I see. You're losing the actual feeling of being there.
You are sanitizing it. For Webb, the color was the only way to translate the physical pressure of the environment to the viewer. Color wasn't makeup, it was the load-bearing column of the photograph.
The load-bearing column. That fundamentally changes how you look at an image. So if color is the structural support, the actual architecture of his frames must be incredibly complex.
Oh, it's incredibly complex.
Because based on the sanalsergi.com sources, he built an ecosystem in his frames around three core dynamics. And the first is what's called layered composition.
Right.
When I was reading about this, the analogy that formed in my mind was like a theater stage. It's like you're sitting in the audience watching three different plays happening on the exact same stage at the exact same time.
That is a perfect way to visualize it.
You have this heavy, quiet drama playing out right at the edge of the stage in the foreground. Behind them, in the middle ground, there's a fast-paced comedy. And way in the back, a totally absurd, chaotic performance. And miraculously, none of the actors ever bump into each other.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that leads directly into how he pulls off that miracle without the actors bumping into each other, which is his second dynamic.
Yeah.
Using light as a scalpel.
Scalpel, not a flashlight.
Exactly. In traditional photography, light is used to illuminate the subject, right, to show you what's there. But Webb uses light to violently slice the scene into isolated blocks. A harsh shaft of sunlight will cut a dense crowd right down the middle, trapping some subjects in blinding exposed light and hiding the person standing right next to them in a pitch-black shadow.
So the light actively fragments the space.
Yes, it chops it up. Which brings us to the third dynamic. Color as structure. But it's really crucial to note, he isn't looking for harmonious, soothing color palettes.
No. The notes say he intentionally seeks out clashing colors, like he will frame a harsh, aggressive red wall right next to a deep, cold blue shadow.
Right. And if we step back and look at the philosophy of street photography, Webb is actively breaking the golden rule established by Henri Cartier-Bresson.
The decisive moment.
Exactly. Cartier-Bresson made the decisive moment famous, waiting for that one single fraction of a second where everything aligns perfectly.
The guy jumping over the puddle, that kind of thing?
Exactly that photo. But Webb shatters that concept by expanding time. Because his frames are so deeply layered, he captures multiple colliding moments.
Wait, how does he capture multiple moments in one click?
Because of the layers. You might have the tired aftermath of an action in the foreground, a present action unfolding in the middle ground, and the rising tension of something about to happen in the background. Past, present, and future, all compressed into one single, vibrating frame.
It's just mind-bending. But to really grasp how this works in practice, we need to spend some serious time walking through the iconic images highlighted in our sources.
We absolutely do.
And for you listening, we're going to build these scenes so you can really see them in your mind's eye.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put ourselves at the U.S.-Mexico border in 1979 in San Isidro, California.
Okay, so you are looking at a scene at night, but the ground is illuminated by this sickly, harsh yellow light.
It's like a spotlight, right?
It's the sweeping searchlight of a Border Patrol helicopter hovering somewhere out of the frame. So the dirt on the ground is starkly visible, and the light has just caught a group of people who have been intercepted trying to cross.
And the composition, it's rigidly split into three horizontal layers. In the foreground, right up against the lens, you have these incredibly heavy, dark shadows of the people.
Yeah.
Some are crouching in the dirt, faces hidden in their hands in total despair. In the midground, you have the frozen motion of the group, trapped in that glaring yellow light.
And then behind them, the background is an unyielding, solid wall of architecture and deep shadow.
There is zero escape route in this frame.
None. And pay attention to how the light and the shadows function here. The people aren't just standing in the dark. The shadows are physically pinning them to the ground.
That's so heavy.
That sweeping helicopter light is slicing them into anonymous geometric blocks.
Okay, looking at this composition, it's heavily geometric. But we're looking at real human beings caught in a terrifying, deeply vulnerable moment.
Right.
So isn't there a risk here that by reducing these individuals to dark, anonymous shapes, the photographer is just, I don't know, turning a harsh human reality into an aesthetic design? Like, isn't that an ethical risk?
I'm so glad you brought that up because that tension is exactly the genius of the photograph and why it's so difficult to look at.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Webb isn't the one objectifying them. He is using his visual language to show you how the border system itself depersonalizes human beings.
Oh, wow.
By rendering them as faceless shadows trapped in rigid blocks of light, he is showing you exactly what the system does to a person. Those deep black shadows in the foreground are literally acting as physical prison bars.
So the shadows are the bars.
Yes, he is visualizing a structural reality using geometry to reveal a systemic truth.
It's so unsettling to realize that the structural elements making a photograph brilliant are exactly what makes the reality so heavy.
It really is.
But in that border photo, he's using artificial helicopter light to create that weight. What happens when he's just out under the open sky?
Well, that brings us back to Haiti, specifically La Gonave in 1986.
Oh, this one is intense.
Webb places us under a brutal, unforgiving, top-down tropical sun at high noon. The light here isn't helping you see the crowd. It is acting as a crushing physical weight pushing down on them.
Yeah, the sources describe the bodies being literally visually fragmented by this light. Because the sun is directly overhead, it creates these severe black voids under the brims of hats and beneath chins.
It visually chops the human form into pieces.
And even though you are looking at a very tight, dense crowd, it doesn't feel unified at all. Every single face is isolated in its own private exhaustion. You can almost feel the sweat and the heat radiating off the image.
You really can. And then you look past the crowd into the background. Behind this exhausted mass of people is the sea.
Which is where it gets incredibly strange, to be honest.
How so?
Well, normally if you have a dense, chaotic, hot crowd in the foreground of an image, placing the ocean in the background gives the viewer a visual escape valve, right?
Right, like a release of tension.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air, a horizon line where your eyes can finally rest.
But Webb denies you that escape. Because of the way he has composed the shot and exposed the film, that flat expanse of water doesn't feel like freedom.
It doesn't look inviting at all.
No, it acts as an impassable cold wall. It actively increases the claustrophobia of the image. The people are physically and metaphorically trapped between the harsh, blistering land and the unyielding water.
Man, so he traps you with light and he traps you with the environment. But when you look through his famous La Calle series, especially that 1996 shot from Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, he traps you with the architecture itself.
Oh, that image is a masterclass in what we call frames within frames.
It really is. Like you are looking at a scene constructed entirely of architectural fragments. Your half-open doors, partial walls, and windows just completely breaking up the space.
Right, and in the immediate foreground, there's a child standing near a vibrantly harsh red wall.
And then in the midground, your eye catches a window reflecting a brilliant, clear blue sky.
And off to the side, a doorway is spilling out a warm, glowing yellow light.
Okay, wait, stop there for a second. Because if I visualize this, my eyes are darting all over the place. I try to focus on the child by the red wall, but then that bright blue window reflection pulls my attention away. And just as I look there, the yellow doorway yanks my focus again.
Yep.
Honestly, it physically gives me a headache. There is no central subject.
And that headache is the intended experience.
Wait, really? He wants to give us a headache?
Well, kind of, yeah. Weber refuses to let you be a passive consumer of his image. He demands your active participation. You have to become a detective. Those clashing colors, the red, the blue, the yellow, they aren't just random straight elements. They are acting as visual traffic lights.
How do you mean, traffic lights?
They create a hidden choreography for your brain. Your eye hits the red wall, which acts as a stop sign, forcing you to pause on the child. Then the visual weight bounces your vision over to the blue window, which then slides your gaze down into the yellow light.
It's like a pinball machine.
Exactly. He has built this incredibly chaotic structure, but he's balanced the saturation of the colors so perfectly that the entire scene holds together without collapsing.
But why? Like, why give the viewer a headache? What is the philosophical reason for making us work so hard to read a single street corner?
Because reality isn't a single clean narrative. Reality is a headache of competing stories happening all at once. If Webb simplified that street corner down to just the child and the red wall, he would be lying to you about the true energy of Nuevo Laredo.
Wow, that makes so much sense. Which brings us to how he handles history and monumentality.
Yeah.
If reality is a headache of competing stories, what does he do with a place like Istanbul, which is already burdened with like 1,000 years of overlapping narratives?
Right, and this brings us to the 2001 image of the Blue Mosque.
Now, when you hear Istanbul and Blue Mosque, you immediately picture the golden, romantic, postcard perfect travel photo, right? The sun setting, the minarets glowing.
Yeah, the classic tourist shot. But Webb absolutely denies us the postcard.
He completely hides it. The foreground of this image is dominated by massive, looming silhouettes of people. You cannot see a single feature on their faces. They are swallowed entirely in deep navy blue shadows.
And then in the background, you have the glowing theatrical architecture of the mosque.
Yeah, so the whole frame becomes this battleground between the cold, icy blues of the shadows and the warm, golden yellows of the architecture.
And this photograph is just a brilliant example of the power of withholding information.
Withholding, because we can't see the faces.
Exactly. By hiding the faces of the people in the foreground, turning them into these monumental blank slates, Webb forces you, the viewer, to project your own thoughts into the void.
He leaves it empty on purpose.
On purpose, yes. He isn't trying to show you what the city looks like for a tourist brochure. He's trying to show you how the city's complex tensions feel.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. By leaving those silhouettes blank against the glowing mosque, he forces you to fill the voids with your own memories and questions. Questions about the tension between East and West, between the ancient and the modern, the visible and the invisible.
The clash of the cold blues and warm yellows is literally the physical manifestation of that cultural clash.
Precisely.
The depth required to read just one of these images is staggering. And honestly, it makes total sense why, in an era where everyone just posts single isolated images on a feed, Webb has always insisted on producing these massive, heavy, incredibly dense physical books.
Oh, his books are legendary.
Right. I mean, why this absolute obsession with the book format?
Well, because for Webb, a single photograph, no matter how powerful the composition or the lighting, is just a single word.
Just a word.
It's a very strong word, but it's isolated. Books are sentences. Books are paragraphs. They're manifestos.
I love it.
When you sequence these chaotic images, one after another, they create a visual echo. The meaning of the photograph on page 40 is fundamentally changed by the photograph you saw on page 39.
You see that perfectly in the sources discussing his book, The Suffering of Light. When you first hear the title, you might think it's, a greatest hits compilation.
Right.
But the notes from sentinelsurgery.com make it clear. It's literally a map of his visual mind. You turn the page from Haiti to Mexico to Istanbul, and you realize his ultimate subject isn't the geography at all. His subject is his own relentless way of seeing the world.
And when he does focus that intense vision on a single geography over a massive span of time, you get a masterpiece like Calle.
30 years in Mexico.
30 years. Through the sequencing of that book, he proves that the street isn't just a flat, static background for human action. The street is a living, breathing organism made of politics, religion, and pure chance, constantly mutating over 3 decades.
We also see this deep atmospheric dive in his book, Istanbul, City of 100 Names.
Yeah.
Just like we saw with the Blue Mosque photo, the book doesn't show you the city. It captures how the heavy melancholy and the layered history of the city actually feel pressing against you on a daily basis.
And of course, we can't forget, under grudging sun, his deeply raw documentation of Haiti in transition.
Back to the catalyst.
Back to the catalyst, exactly. This was the place where that massive shift happened, where the raw, blistering reality forced him to abandon black and white forever. The book format allows the relentless intensity of that tropical sun to physically exhaust the viewer, page after page. It perfectly mirrors the reality of the people living under it.
So, bringing all of this together, right? The books, the light acting as a scalpel, the hidden choreographies. Why does this visual chaos hunter matter to you, listening to this deep dive right now?
That's the big question.
Right, maybe you're prepping for a meeting or you're just commuting, looking out the window. Why should we care about a photographer who intentionally makes his work difficult to consume?
Well, I mean, he matters because he fundamentally redefined the language of color. He took it from being a commercial, pretty aesthetic, and turned it into that structural, load-bearing column of truth we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that really stuck with me.
But more importantly, he matters because of his philosophy on complexity. Look, we live in a world that constantly tries to spoon-feed us easily digestible, sanitized content. Everything is simplified into a quick headline, a hot take, or a clean, filtered image.
We are so desperate for the clean, simple version of life.
We are, and Webb's entire body of work just rejects that desire entirely. He proves that reality is messy. It's overlapping, it's chaotic, it is full of contradictory colors and competing stories happening at the exact same time.
And he argues that we shouldn't try to sanitize it. The chaos is the truth.
Precisely. And this is knowledge you can apply the second you take your headphones off.
Really? How so?
Tomorrow morning, while you are standing at a crowded bus stop or waiting for your coffee, do a simple experiment. Instead of pulling out your phone and staring at a clean, curated screen, look up. Look at the world like an Alex Webb photograph.
Oh, I like this.
Look at the foreground, the midground, and the background simultaneously. Notice how a random shaft of light cuts through the crowd, isolating a stranger's face while hiding the person next to them. Notice how a harsh red billboard violently clashes with the soft blue coat of someone walking by.
The world is constantly staging these unscripted, wildly chaotic masterpieces if you just learn how to actively read the frame.
Exactly. You just have to look for it.
I love that shift in perspective so much. The world is never just one story at a time. It's an endlessly layered composition. Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over today.
What's that?
Well, if life is always a layered composition, constantly expanding in time, what if the most important story unfolding in your own life right now isn't the obvious one playing out right in front of you in the foreground? What if it's hiding quietly in the background, just waiting for the right light to reveal itself?